And do I see who's there? Just in case anyone is viewing this, Adrian, hello. We have one viewer. I don't know why you're not popping up as viewer, but it's still showing 0 viewers. So I don't know if there are more of you out there or not at this point. I'm waiting for this to sort of tell me that there are viewers. I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes. The technology is a little new here. I think it's really interesting stuff, but it's a little complicated. So yes, okay, so I see one viewer. So Adrian, at the moment, I think it's just you and me. But I'm going to wait for just a few more people. I'm told, actually, Adrian, you would be good because I think you have a Google Plus account. You should have the ability to actually make comments, but I other than the hello, but yeah, thank you for the glasses. But there should be audio if you're with Google Plus, but I don't know how that works. And so at the moment, as I say this, there's a slight delay here, but it seems that we're the only, oh, no, there are 2 people now. I don't know who the second person is because it doesn't tell me that. So hello, second person. We're waiting for a couple of more people to show up. I'm going to wait until about 5 or 10 after. If any of you have experience with broadcasting over YouTube Live, you know, please send me a message or pipe in. The way I understand it is that you should be able to do audio, but I'm having some problems with the controls. So I'm going to wait for just a couple of more people. We're at 2 at the moment. So if the second person wants to say hello, it'd be great just to know who the second person is. If you're on YouTube, to the right, you should see basically chat because the chat function is turned on. And so you should be able to just type in a chat and then that will pop your name up on a list here. But otherwise, I have no idea who the viewers are. I haven't been able to quite figure out all of these controls yet. So I apologize that I'm not being able to get audio back from you and just text comments. But again, it's just something that you know I'm playing with at the moment. So as I said, we're up to 2 viewers. The idea is to just sort of generally discuss the stats for the year and give this a first shot. I don't see any additional comments, so I'm not quite sure who the second viewer is. I'm going to try a control here just to see if that at all gives me any information regarding viewers, but unfortunately it apparently doesn't. So yeah, that's sort of where we are. This is sort of awkward, as I mentioned, because I can't get direct feedback from anyone, which is the great problem with this software, except, as I mentioned, if you are Google Plus, there should be a way of you actually doing voice into the broadcast, but I'm not quite sure how that works. So at the moment we're about 7:06 and we have 2 people. Adrian, are you still there? Trying to figure out here if we should just charge into this with only 2 people or not. And I don't see any additional comments. So I'm totally baffled. And I apologize for the glare in the glasses. I'm trying to find somewhere to do this, where the light doesn't reflect so. But yes, we're up to a whopping 2 viewers at the moment. So we'll just sort of keep waiting a little bit here to see. Okay, so you don't, okay. Yeah, as I say, it keeps telling me that, I mean, I authorized people to make comments, but, you know, for the life of me, I can't figure out how you do that. So it's not necessarily a link to Google Plus. As I understand it, if you're on Google Plus, while you have this open, somehow there's the ability to turn this into a bit of a conference call, which would be great, because if we could get, you know, 10 or 15 people conferenced in, it would be great. But the reason I had to switch at the last moment was that the software I was going to use, I had a presentation set up, and this software allowed me to do that. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the camera to link in to my computer or to link into YouTube. And so there was only audio and no visual, and that sort of defeated the purpose. But you're there. Okay, good. And there's also a slight delay between what I'm saying and when you're getting it, of probably close to a minute. So yeah, because I see your comment came in at 7:06 and it's 7:08. So I'm going to keep talking because I think that's just because of that delay that's necessary. So again, the total viewer count is just 2 at the moment. You know, I'm going to leave it to you. I mean, what do you think? Should I just charge into this? It's just, I suppose if nothing else, it gets it on video, and that's sort of the key thing. So I'm going to wait 1 more minute, and then basically go. We have 3 viewers now. So whoever the new viewer is, to the right of the YouTube, there should be an ability to enter a chat or a comment. Not a comment below, but on the right, sort of the chat. If you could enter a comment, that would be great. That would give me some sense of who the who's on, because otherwise I have no idea. But I'm going to wait here. There are a couple of technical issues that we're having problems with. I'm going to wait until 7:10 to start this. It isn't quite working. Oh, we lost someone. And so there you have it. But so I'm just going to wait till 7:10, do a quick overview, and then probably end the broadcast early, because now we have 3 viewers again. Go ahead. People may watch it later too. Yes, that's the thing. Okay, so we're going to start at 7:10. This is the community meeting for Network2424. We did have monthly CAPS meetings, but we decided last year that there would be every other month CAPS meetings due to the budget cuts at the police and just the limited manpower to get to all the meetings, and because everyone wanted beat meetings. And in order to get sufficient police personnel to the meetings and still keep police out on the street, we had to go to every other month meeting. In the interim, we have community meetings. And normally we have those at Pottawattomie Park, which is 7340 Rogers. But that isn't available this evening because of early voting. And so we're just going for this community meeting online overview. There were some technical issues. I apologize. I wanted to do a presentation about crime stats over the last couple of years, but that is impossible. And now I'm down to 0 viewers. Oh, hi, Teresa. So the way it's working, right, and so anyway, I apologize. I should have started this. My name is Bernard Garbo, and I'm one of the beat facilitators for Police Beat 2424, which goes from Howard to Pratt and Clark to Ridge. And so this is a community meeting versus the police meeting, which is part of our CAP series. So this evening, we would normally be meeting at Pottawattomie Park, but we're not because of, as I said, early voting. What I wanted to go over generally is the big drop in crime stats over the last couple of years. And it's really quite remarkable that we're down to 774 crime incidents for all of 2014. And part of that, and I'm guessing the viewers that are here know this already, but since the video may be viewed by other people later on, I just wanted to stress the importance of calling 911 even if the incident is over or it looks like police may show up after whatever it is that you're calling about. And the reason that's so important is because it creates a record of the event. And without a record of the event, it is as if it never happened. So you may come to a CAPS meeting that is with the police, or you may go to the alderman's office or somewhere else, and you may have a very valid complaint about a particular activity. But if 911 hasn't been called, now then there's no official record. So for all practical purposes, your block has been super quiet as far as anyone is concerned when they look at it. And so it's extremely important to be calling 911. And I am firmly convinced that that is why we have seen numbers drop so drastically. It is neighbors watching their block that has driven this. Generally, also, I just wanted to do a quick community announcement, which was that we continue to need people for the Pottawattomie Park Advisory Council, and we also need people on the Pottawattomie dog-friendly area, otherwise known as the Dog Park. And the chief program of the Pottawattomie Park Advisory Committee is the annual food truck event, and this is a great thing to work on. And so if you're interested in that, give me a call or send me an email or contact Barbara Deaver at the Park District. And you can also go to Facebook, Pottawattomie Park Advisory Council, for the next meeting, which I believe is the second Tuesday second Monday, pardon me, of each month. And the dog park meets the last Monday of each month. This is a little sort of odd for me because, as I said earlier, there's really no feedback from people. But when we're looking at it in January, I was somewhat concerned with the increase in robberies. They aren't really that many, but there's an increase last year of about 8. And this year, I'm happy to say in January, we had only 1. We had significantly more January of last year. But it's there were some troubling things about the robbery, which I sort of posted. It's surprising that a number of these have been taking place. I suppose not surprising, but a number of them are taking place between midnight and 4 a.m. And given the location of those, I feel fairly confident they're related to bars closing. So last year, there were 32 robberies, which in a general sense is not really that great. You're talking 12 months. But with, 9 of those occurring between midnight and 4 a.m., I think that sort of tells us where the problem is. The rest of them tend to be a little more random, which I think supports the belief that robberies tend to be, on the whole, crimes of opportunity. So it's not necessarily that someone is, getting themselves together and going out and knowing that they're going to target someone specifically. Now, that does happen on the L periodically with phones being stolen and other things. But I think often these things can be crimes of opportunity, that someone may need money or want a phone, and the opportunity just arises that someone isn't paying attention, and so somebody takes advantage of it. And that's rather hard to deal with, except to be aware of your surroundings. But I did think that was interesting. And also last year in January, we had 4 robberies versus only 1 robbery in January of this year. And again, I think that's people being aware, calling 911. It's an area where people are interacting with each other, and if someone is aware of that, it definitely reduces the opportunity of that particular crime. Let me jump back to this very quickly. I have some Excel spreadsheets open, and having them open means that it blocks my view of who is on, and if there are any comments, and so far there aren't. But what I would really appreciate is some feedback, and I think this technology is really great. The real problem is that it's difficult to have this conversation, because it's not really without feedback from people. So if anyone is familiar with this, I'd really appreciate any emails or calls so that we can make this a more useful function. I don't plan on having this as a regular means of the community meeting, but I do think it's a good system for updates, and especially in the winter months, and if there's anything in particular going on. As I say, I had these presentations ready to go. Unfortunately, I had to switch software at the last minute. So now, instead of being able to put the charts and everything up on the screen, I sort of have them over here in an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm just referring to them. But in 2008, to go back to the crime stats, there were 1,106 crime incidents in our beat. So again, 1,106. And this last year, there were 774, which is even a fairly dramatic drop from the prior year of 889. And so again, I think this would not be happening if people in our area were not calling 911 and were not being aggressive about watching their blogs. So at the moment, I feel like I'm just sort of rambling. Oh, we have 4 viewers, yay. But I'm just checking here to see any additional comments coming in. If you have any comments, it's on the YouTube that you're looking at on the channel, not below, but to the right, there should be an area that says chat, and that should allow you to post a comment. Again, for anyone who's new, I was discussing crime incidents, the large drop that we've seen, and the fact that we definitely need more attendance at the Pottawattomie Park Advisory Council and the Pottawattomie Dog Park meeting. If you have any particular question or concern that I can address, let me know. As I say, it's generally easier when there's feedback. So, and then of course, I'm just sort of curious generally if you think this is an effective way of communicating. I'm trying to think of other things that we're dealing with. Oh yes, at some of the last CAPS meetings, if you weren't there, there were complaints about Uno School, and this is a prime example of how the community working through CAPS meetings can make a significant difference. A resident had been complaining about the traffic issues on Ridge, and also just cars speeding through the alleys, and possibly older kids who are attending Uno buying drugs. So what we did was we worked with the police. Unbeknownst to me until after the fact, a car had been assigned, actually a couple of them, to monitor the area. They were basically unmarked. And as a result of all of that, additional information was gathered, and the police had already had an active open lines of communication with Uno. The complaints that had come in from neighbors added to that, and in the end, Uno is working to move as much of the traffic as possible behind the school, so to reduce the problem on Ridge. As I say, the other areas are being looked at of potential drug abuse and all of that kind of thing. But that would not have happened had neighbors not come to CAPS meetings, pardon me, and complained. and equally, it's keeping an eye on their neighborhood makes such a big difference. I'm doing a little stream of consciousness here, but I'm beginning to feel like a senator who's filibustering and trying to think of anything to speak about. It's a little odd. As I say, I have the presentation set up, but it's in a different software, and I can't have that running while I have this running. So I have to try to remember some of these things. Basically, I think I've hit on some of the key points. I really apologize. Is UNO a standard charter, or is there a special focus? I believe UNO is a standard charter school, but I don't know the answer to that question. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, as far as I know, it's a standard charter school. I think the key thing there again is that the police and city officials would not have been involved if someone had not come to the CAPS meeting, and instead of just complaining, which is a valid thing to do, but was willing to engage and provide additional information and work with me and the police to transmit as much information to them as possible. And so, I mean, it really shows the importance of the partnership between the police and the community in order to improve our area. And our area is without doubt increasing. I mean, to see such a drop of crime from over 1,100 in 2008 to down to 774 last year is really amazing. And it could not have happened without the participation of all of the neighbors in this area, as well as our friends in Evanston, and of course the partnerships that we have with the Chicago Police and City Services. So I'm trying to think of other things that are sort of going on here, we'd love to know who the other viewers are. Thank you, Teresa. That basically touches on the key elements. I do want to point out that we continue to have a problem at Rogers and Damon, which is also an area where a number of the robberies have taken place or near there. So for anyone watching this later on, if you happen to live near Damon and Rogers, it would be very helpful if you could make a point of calling about any suspicious activity that you see. And again, suspicious activity is anything that you determine to be suspicious. I mean, don't make up things. That would be very inappropriate, and also dangerous to the police who might be rushing there for something that isn't. But report what you see, and don't hesitate to just basically say there's something suspicious about this person. That's it. And again, even if the police don't show up, my apologies, that wasn't well phrased. Even if the police showing up is delayed, which it can be, and so you may think they don't show up, there's still a record of the incident and an indication that there's a problem at that particular location. Our current commander and past commanders have all told us that when they're coming on for the day and when they're reviewing the week, they look for the number of calls as an indicator of where a potential problem is. So even though the police, you may have people who are testing your block, you may have people who are, trying to deal drugs, you may have any number of things. Or you may just have people coming through who are loud periodically. But without your calling 911, there is no record to indicate that there's a growing problem on your block. And so it could potentially only get worse. And so calling 911 is very, very crucial. If you're new to Chicago, 911 operates a little differently than it does in other towns. Many people say, oh, don't pester the police with a minor detail. In Chicago, any call that requires police attention or is of interest to the police goes to 911. We do not have a non-emergency police number the way Evanston does. So in Chicago, if you're calling the police about anything, you call 911. So you are not pestering them. You're not getting in the way of emergencies, etc. Because when your call comes in, it's going to go to dispatch, and field sergeants are going to be able to also determine priority of that call. So if you're calling about a parked car by a fire hydrant and there's a battery in process, it doesn't matter that your call came in earlier. For the car by the fire hydrant, the battery is going to take priority, and they may not get to that car for a couple of hours. And the car may have moved in the interim. But nevertheless call, because it may be that that is a popular spot for people to park in, and people really shouldn't park by fire hydrants in the event that there's a fire. Surprisingly, we made it to 7:30. I'm sorry, where our active hotspot has Howard Hoyne been quiet? Hotspots are not really identified by the police. They determine them. You know, we can make educated guesses. My guess is that there are still spots within our area that are. Within, even though crime has dropped to 774 incidents, the majority of those incidents are still occurring north of Rogers. And Howard Hoyne is an issue, but it has been, the corner itself has not been as much of an issue. Much of the crime has actually moved a little further west. There's an alley, there's a convenience store there, and based on neighbors' reports, there does seem to be some questionable activity in that general area. So it's not really Howard and Hoyne. It's half a block west. It's between Ridge and Hoyne. But it seems that all the pressure that neighbors were able to put onto Howard and Hoyne has moved it slightly west. And so neighbors there have been more actively calling. I've had reports of drug deals in the alley behind people's homes, all of which wasn't happening until we put that pressure on, which again simply supports that if neighbors are active and calling 911, crime will move someplace else. Criminal elements will go to where people are not watching, because you don't want to have people see what you do. But that's sort of Howard and Hoyne. It's been otherwise fairly quiet. There seems to be much more activity, as I was saying, down at Damon and Rogers. And I'm not quite sure why, but that is the location. As some of you may be aware, there was a shooting, which means that somebody had been hit in Evanston, just north of Howard. No one was killed. One individual was, I believe, shot in the leg. I can't remember the other one. I think the arm was grazed. I'm not making light of it, but just so there were no fatalities. But the person who was the shooter came from north of Howard. And there's been a lot of effort in the last 2 years to address the sort of entrenched gang activity there. And we should be aware that our area is improving, and that means that it looks good to somebody from the outside who may be wanting to move from someplace like north of Howard. And that may be a reason why Damon and Rogers has seen a spike. I don't know. That is pure, speculation on my part. There's no inside information I have from the police or anything like that. But it's just based on observation. And so, so Howard and Hoyne is really not our problem at the moment. Damon and Rogers tends to be much more so our problem. The 7300 block of Damon in particular, and to some degree the 7300 block of Winchester, but that's being addressed. Also, if any of you see a vacant building or house, or a house that appears to be vacant, and the snow hasn't been removed from around it, that kind of thing, definitely drop me an email. We can look into it. A neighbor recently was complaining about 1938 West Fargo, and turns out that the building is vacant. So that was good to know. And so now Streets and Sound and others can be aware, the police as well, that this is an unoccupied building if anything happens in or around it. So again, it's an annoyance when the sidewalks aren't cleared, or if there's massive growth, well, massive if there's large growth, overgrowth or trash in a yard. It's unsightly and all of that, but it can also be indicative of a problem with the owner. And the best way to handle that is to let me or to let someone at city services, the police, know about this, because it may have gone unreported, or it may not have gotten on Streets and Sound's radar as a potential problem, or the police's, and they do need to know this kind of thing. Otherwise, generally speaking, our area has been fairly quiet. There hasn't been too much going on. The shooting that happened in Evanston was of some concern, but that wasn't in our area. It was about a block and a half north of Howard, but that's still very close, and I think it's important that we know what's going on. Teresa's from 2423. We don't live in an island, we aren't an island here, and nor are the people north of Howard and 2423 and the people to the west of us in 2411 or Evanston to the north of us. And so it's important that we stay up on what's going on there, and that we work with those people, because we want the entire area to improve, not just where we are. But again, definitely pat yourself on the back. We have seen some of the greatest improvements in the 24th district. And I think the model that we're using of just neighbors being informed of what's going on and actively calling 911 makes a big difference. I'm afraid I feel I've been rambling for about 33 minutes here. And I'm going to just pause for a little bit. I realize there's about a minute or two delay, but if there are no other specific questions, I've touched on most of the things that I wanted to touch on. It would have been nice, as I say, to do the presentation and discuss it with the charts, but for me to constantly have to go over here and look at the Excel chart, and it's not as seamless as the other software would have been. The Sealy side of Old is not shoveled. Perfect. For that particular one, call 311. The city says it's ticketing for that. If people don't call, it's not going to be. So definitely call. I mean, it's the great thing about 311 these days is that there are many things that often you had to go through city personnel to get to, you can do directly with 311. And ideally, if you could get a couple of other people to report it at the same time, that would be very helpful. But as a personal opinion, I really find the land banking that the owner of the Dearborn Foods, what he's doing is not helping our neighborhood at all. And business owners are as much neighbors as residential neighbors. So it's very important that we hold bad business neighbors to task as much as we go after bad residential owners and landlords. So I have to say, this is it's really taxing on the throat. It makes you appreciate people who do these broadcasts. Breaks are definitely necessary. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I've left out. We've touched on the fact that the crime is down substantially. There's some concern with robberies. They aren't huge, but please be aware of your surroundings. It's the best way to avoid them. And if you see anyone who's just sort of hanging out on your block that you don't recognize or that you don't think is visiting a neighbor, please call 911. I was talking to the police recently after the shooting that happened in Evanston. I was saying that I was noticing a number of people I'd never seen before walking through my block, being quite noisy. And I I didn't call 911, even though I tell everyone to do it, because I didn't really see what they were doing. They were passing through. But the police have informed me that, just what I keep telling everyone else, call 911. It's a suspicious activity. And without it, there's, again, no indication that we have regular traffic coming from somewhere passing into Evanston. And so, again, I can't stress enough the calling 911. If you would, sorry, all this stuff I had over here, I was looking to see when our March, my apologies, everyone seems to be on their phone constantly, but my calendar is on the phone, and I just needed to check to see when the March meeting was, March 17th. Got it. Yes, land banking. Land banking is when you buy a building and you do nothing with it. You anticipate that property values are going to go up, but you leave it vacant. If it's a home or if it's a commercial building. And basically, that's what land banking is. And as far as I mean, that's what I see them as doing. Do I really know that's what he's doing? I don't, but it's my guess. I mean, I don't see why else you would hold on to that property, why you would sell it. So I mean, I'm guessing he wants a larger price, so a higher price. So he's basically just holding the land and banking on it growing in value. So land banking. And it's been a problem in a number of neighborhoods. In Lakeview, it was a real problem. There were a large number of old warehouses that people had purchased and were doing absolutely nothing with. So they were an eyesore, and other people were developing properties around them, but you couldn't do anything with that particular property because the person was unwilling to sell it. And so that's the real sort of heart of the problem. The owner of the person who owns the Dearborn Foods building, which basically runs it runs from Sealy to, well, not quite to Hoyne, but it definitely runs a good length of that block. He also owns from Sealy to Damon. So there's a fair amount of land that he has, and he's not, as I say, doing much with it as far as I'm concerned. And when we're seeing all the development on the Evanston side, it's definitely frustrating because it would be great to have that developed. We need more commercial. We need more commercial neighbors who are providing things, as the neighborhood changes, and the neighborhood is changing. We're getting younger people in, and I think there's more interest in things on Howard. Evanston definitely seems to be tapping into that. We're not tapping into it quite as much. That's more or less it. Well, it's 7:40. If you have any additional questions, let me know. As I say, I got a little discombobulated when I discovered that I couldn't get the software that I've been working on the last day or so to work, and I had to use an alternative method to sign on for this broadcast. So unless there's something else, we'll see you March 17th. And that will be at Pottawattomie, and that will be the police meeting. And I know that the number of people are concerned about 7245 North Ridge. And if there's anything else, come to the CAPS meetings. It's important to develop that relationship with the police. And the more people we have at the meetings, obviously the more the police know the neighbors are interested in improving the area, which inspires the police more to work with us. That's about it. So I'm going to sign off on that and thank the people who showed up tonight, and stay warm. It's going to be very cold the next couple of days. So thank you very much, and see you March 17th. Bye.